Coming up on the Code Bet Daily NRL Round 16 show. Look, there's only 5 games, so we start rambling a little bit. I think Cronulla will cover, but let's be honest, our attention's on the golf at the end of the show. What have you got for us, Phil?
Wyndham Clark to win the US Open. No, look, there's a couple of disagreements on a couple of these games, but yeah, obviously no Origin players in this weekend, which just creates complete and utter rugby league chaos.
Also known as a Brad Fittler selection thing, but hey, it's the Code Bet Daily NRL show, Round 16 preview. It's coming at you right now. Welcome to the Code Bet Daily NRL show, Round 16 preview. Holy crap, there's only 10 rounds left in the season. It'll be finals before you know it. It'll be like, where's the year gone? I'm your host, Alex Donnelly. I am the Junior Vice President of Content Creation at CodeBet. It's a pretty good website. You should go check that out. I am joined, as always, by our NRL expert, Phil Pryor, who's taken a break from yelling on the internet about the NRL and the State of Origin team to join us today. How are we, Phil?
Al, I'm doing well. Hold your horses, though, on this whole, the season is flying by. Trust me, the final 5 or 6 regular season rounds will be the slowest period of your life, because that's how long the NRL season is. It's actually a joke.
This is very true, but thankfully there is 4 points between 4th and 14th at the moment. So hopefully we have some fun in the last couple of weeks rather than like the AFL last year where it was, let's see if Carlton somehow can miss out on the finals. But only the 5 games for us this weekend, Phil, which is, well, let's be honest, it's great for our workloads because we've been worked to the bone as of late.
It is. Just before we get into it, Cliff House, massive day for you on Saturday. Congratulations.
I did say just before we recorded, possibly the greatest day of my life. I saw my dad get a tear in his eye, and my dad's best friend, who's a part owner, he had tears in his eyes. Allegedly, they didn't cry at their weddings, but they cried at Round Week on Saturday. So that's pretty funny to me, but I have seen my dad's best friend cry at his daughter's wedding, so it's probably just his wife. Love you, Kim.
And as I said to you, right back at you, I think if the North Sydney Bears came back into the comp, or the Bears of any iteration back into the NRL, that'd probably be right up there for me, and I cannot confirm nor deny that there would be tears at my end as well.
Yeah, I might cry if the Swans actually win another football game as well. That's how bad they're going. But this isn't the AFL show. That's available now. You should go check that out on Spotify. If you listen to this, you're on the NRL feed. If you're on Apple Podcasts, it'll be the episode below this one. Bit of a weird one this week, as we said. Just the 5 games, and the NRL is just like, yeah, let's throw 3 games on Saturday and forget about Thursday night football and let Geelong and Port Adelaide have free reign at it. So we'll kick off on Friday night in Queensland. The North Queensland Cowboys at $2.30. Penrith, $1.73 favourites, obviously with their Origin stars out and Nathan Cleary due to injury. This line has changed during the week. I saw 6.5 available for the Cowboys. They are now plus 3.5. And the Panthers at a -2 with Ladbrokes. The over-under between 40 and 41.5. This is tricky, as are most games this weekend.
Yeah, I did the betting preview for CodeBet earlier today. Tricky was a word that I literally had written in my introduction. And yeah, look, I didn't get onto the markets that early in the week, so that surprises me. Maybe it was actually I don't know why they were such a long bet at any stage. Like, my sort of read on this game is that it's a coin flip. Cowboys home advantage, classier halves combination. I think that actually gives them a wider path to victory in this game. I think Penrith are favourites literally through reputation alone this week. They've, both of these sides have 5 players missing because of Origin, but it's actually kind of 6 Panthers and 5 Cowboys if you want to include Nathan Cleary.
Kind of and really that one.
Yeah, the only part of the matchups where I've got Penrith sort of ahead is that sort of their big brutes up front. Leota, Fisher-Harris, Leniu, Lindsay Smith is emerging as well. He's sort of been touted for 2-3 years now as an emerging front rower. He's finally starting to have some impact off the bench. So they've got the better front rowers in this game, but they've both got classy fullbacks. The Cowboys have a lot more class in the halves. They're coming off the bye, so in theory they should be fresh and raring to go. And yet, you can get them just head to head $2.30 Bet365. So I'm taking them even still just with the 3.5 started at $1.91 on Bet365. But I'm not against just taking the Cowboys head to head in this one either.
Yeah, not New Zealand, North Queensland are the best team in the past 5 weeks in the NRL as far as line betting goes. They are 4-1. I just thought Cowboys at home. If it was still that 6.5, I'd absolutely be all over that. But at the 3.5, it is now. It's tricky. It's like, it's a great bet. It is literally a penalty goal difference. Like I don't really want to take that. So I'm happy to sit on my hands and sort of watch this and be like, maybe the Cowboys do have a chance in the back end of the season, because a win here, all of a sudden they are just outside the top 8 because they are that team in 14th, ironically enough, on 14 points.
Yeah, they've got a bit of a run, and their home form has been far and away better than their away form. I mean, they won as an away team in Brisbane against the Roosters on Magic Round. Outside of that, I'm not even sure if they've won an away game all year. They certainly haven't won interstate. They've been terrible in Sydney. But their last 2 Queensland Country Bank stadiums, they've scored a combined 87 points against the Storm, and I think it was the Dragons before that, about 5 or 6 weeks ago. So, that's a huge home boost for this team that does also get Tom Dearden back because he dropped out of the extended Maroons bench.
Yep. Yeah, it's so easy. Yeah, I think we'll move on to Saturday and the 3 games there. And if you said to me, or I said to you back in March when we started doing this here CodeBet NRL show, the Newcastle Knights would be $1.52 against the Sydney Roosters, who are $2.60, and the line's about 6 points wherever you look, we'd probably be committed for the thoughts we had about Newcastle going into this season. But my God, the Roosters have been poor. They're $2.60. The line's plus 6.5. The over-under's 44 to 45.5. And we were right last week. The Roosters were way too short, and the Panthers absolutely belted them, and we got a little bit of money back there.
That's definitely true. I mean, the other part that we probably didn't see coming is that Kalen Ponga is playing this week, heading into the season, obviously given whether it's kind of the fitness or the concussion issues or the fact that it's an Origin round. But no, he's not unavailable for either of those reasons. So he's in.
Yep.
Tedesco's obviously out for the Roosters, along with a couple of others. The Roosters are still getting back some key personnel. They don't have Matt Lodge this week, or Lindsay Collins as well, who's into the Queensland team. The Knights only lose Tyson Frizzell from a representative standpoint.
Yeah.
Greg Marju drops out for disciplinary reasons, I believe. But the Knights are basically at full strength. Even Tyson Frizzell at this point in his career is called up into Origin for solidness, nothing else. And the fact that he's been there before. So they're not losing a lot through that. So look, they're pretty much at full strength. I said to you on this show 7 days ago that I had a weird feeling about the Knights going up to Brisbane and beating the Broncos up there. That almost happened.
Close.
That almost happened. I think they are the deserved favourites in this game. The Roosters are last in the competition for points scored. They're averaging just 2.7 tries a game.
Yeah,
not good. Not good.
No.
And I wrote in I wrote in the preview for that last game that Penrith are going to go up to North Queensland and try and win 3 tries to 2. That's essentially what they can do. They've got replacement level halves. And that's all they can do. Well, the Roosters, that's the only way they can win. Just full stop. No asterisks or Origin issues with that. It's just they stink. What actually might work in their favour is that they've got two legitimate halves footballers playing in the halves for them this week, and they've got Joey Manu at fullback, who I'm prepared to say at this point is a better fullback than James Tedesco.
Ooh.
Heading into the season, we thought that the Roosters had potentially three of the best fullbacks on the planet.
Yep.
Obviously, I haven't seen Joseph Suaalii disprove that. Frankly, in the limited opportunities he's got at fullback this year, he's out with suspension right now. Joseph Manu entered this season, I think, widely considered one of the best fullbacks on the planet, and he hasn't had a game there since. You've seen him playing 5'8", and he's essentially trying to play fullback, a predominantly running fullback. So it might actually give them more balance. It means that perhaps you're going to see the halves go to the line and actually pass it and not just show the ball and go themselves. And it could actually create a little bit more opportunity for them out wide. They've got Dan Tupou back on the wing. So look, I'll tip Newcastle in this game in tipping comps and wherever else, but I think the Roosters can go up there and win this game, and I think they can cover with the 6.5 point start. So that's where I'm leaning. Bet365 has that at $1.82. I'm probably looking to get a little bit more value minus a point or two at the line there. I think I'd be happy with the Roosters and 3.5 or 4.5 point start in this one.
Of note, the Roosters have won 4 of the last 5, and they have won them fairly convincingly against the Knights. There honestly must be something in the water at Moore Park, playing your gun players out of position, something that the Roosters and the Swans are doing, and it's not working. Anyway, I could yell about that for a couple of hours. Parramatta take on Manly on a Saturday evening. So 5:30 p.m. this one. Parramatta $1.65, Manly $2.45. The line is 3.5 or 4.5 wherever you look. 42 or 41.5 for the over/under. Is it as simple as no Turbo Tom and no DCE for Manly equals a loss?
It generally is. And, Manly certainly don't like traveling. And for whatever reason,
then from Manly all the way out there, let's be honest, it's a couple of tolls. It's just expensive. And then you get to Parramatta and you can't find a park. It's just, I get it.
They don't like traveling to Western Sydney. The other week I had to do I called a schoolboy cup rugby league game at Cabramatta, and I looked at the tolls afterwards because I went the quickest way. I just wanted to get there. I don't need to go back streets to avoid tolls or whatever else. I looked later on. That trip cost me $40.
Oh, that's just,
Which I will be claiming for the record. That was work.
Tax time, punters, tax time.
Exactly. But, I mean, that's what we're dealing with in Sydney. It's hard enough to make ends meet, obviously. And then $40 just to get to Western Sydney for work. Crazy. Anyway, Manly will probably take the tolls as well, and they'll take their licks in this game. Look, both of these sides have players out. So once again, it's incredibly tricky. It is hard, for the Eels. They lose Mitch Moses. We won't go into the details on the selection philosophies of New South Wales. But the fact of the matter is Mitch Moses looked like a world beater against the Bulldogs last week. And Manly without
Bulldogs.
Manly without key personnel, they're probably going to be Bulldogs-esque in this one. No Mitch Moses to take advantage, but there is Clint Gutherson to take advantage. The fact that there's no Dylan Brown, though, certainly hurts Parramatta in this one as well. So that's where it starts to get a little bit tricky. But I think you just have to back the Eels based on what they've been able to sort of fix about their game in the last 5 or 6 weeks. And even though Manly scored 58 points against the Dolphins last week, if you go and watch the replay of that, or you watched it last weekend, I mean,
that was wild.
It was embarrassing. Some of the individual efforts that were put forward by that Dolphins team. Tessie New, there was one with Ewan Aitken in the centres where Olakau'atu went straight through and 2 guys just looked at him. It was frankly some of the shoddiest rugby league efforts that I've seen all year from any individual or team.
It's
And
kind of what we expected from the Dolphins at the start of the year, not come round 15.
that was exactly the thought I was having when I was watching the replay of that game earlier on this week. So I don't know how much. I don't know. I just don't know how much you can take out of that Manly performance. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. So, yeah, pretty easy to sort of lean on Parramatta at home with all those players out. I didn't mind Parramatta at the line. This was one of the actual games I had some clarity on this weekend. I was pretty keen on Parramatta to cover that 3.5 with Bet365. Manly, they hate travelling. Getting across to Western Sydney, I understand. It makes sense. Saturday night, a bit of an awkward one, this one. The West Tigers at $2.75. The Melbourne Storm are $1.48. The line is a beautiful 6.5, and as is the over-under, which is 41.5. Unfortunately for the West Tigers, Campbelltown, like GWS in Canberra, is not a safe haven. They have lost their past 7 out, all the way west at Campbelltown.
That is... Look, it's a crazy stat because it's a home team in rugby league. Then again, it's the West Tigers.
Why can't they just play it like Concord Oval? Seriously, that's a great oval.
That is true, which has just been relaunched this season. West Harbour are back playing there in the Shute Shield, and it looks decent.
The Pirates, yes!
It looks decent.
Shout out to Miles Hunter.
Although apparently they didn't put a camera platform in the brand new shiny new grandstand.
Because of course they didn't. Because why not? It's like Robertson Oval in Wagga Wagga not putting enough lights in the light tower to get an AFL game for the GWS Giants. An extra $50,000 would have got them an AFL game, but no, seriously.
Yeah, so I don't think they'll be having rugby league at Concord Oval anytime soon, which is ridiculous. But look, the West Tigers haven't won a match at any stadium for a long, long time, almost. But look, they have turned a corner, obviously, after their appalling start to the season.
Yeah.
For this one, Melbourne are without some key personnel. So, that line with the 6.5, I'm leaning Tigers, to be honest. They don't have Uppy Coruscant, obviously, which certainly hurts. But again, no Harry Grant, no Munster for Melbourne. They're going to be leaning heavily on Jerome Hughes, of course. They even lose Xavier Coates, so they can't, just sort of send high kicks out to the left wing and hope that does the trick, which it did obviously last week for the Storm a couple of times last week. But the Storm are naming a fairly inexperienced team as well. They lose Eli Katoa. So I think the Tigers can sneak on home here with the 6.5 start.
Okay. Yeah, no, all the players out. It's the West Tigers. I find them hard to trust at the best of times. Again, I said I only had clarity of two or 5 games this weekend. Maybe take the under and just, ride the unders. That's probably about it for me because I think the last couple between these two have also gone under. Yeah, the last 2 have gone under the total points line. And then you have a look, West Tigers last 2 as well, and 3 of 5 for the Storm. So I think the under 41.5 might grab me with Bet365.
Yeah, I'm not... The fact that Luke Brooks isn't playing for the Tigers is almost a win for mine. I think he's just dreadful.
Yep.
I'm interested to see what Stafford Toa looks like at 6 for Wests, but I'm so keen on what I've seen out of Jaireen Buller, the young fullback for the Tigers. So I think they can get at the line. That's where I'm leaning.
Nice. I like it. Move on to the final game of the weekend, 4:05 on a Sunday afternoon at Shark Park. Cronulla, after an insipidly pathetic, embarrassing display last week, are $1.26 somehow after getting smacked by 40-plus points. They take on the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs at #nice, $4.20. The line is 12.5. The over-under is 43.5. I have some clarity on this game, but I'll let you go first, Phil.
Well, I've got a large smattering of Sharks players in my NRL, in my fantasy team, and one of them is Nico Hines. So that's the silver lining for him not getting picked by the Blues.
Yeah.
The Sharks are, obviously almost at full strength. Blake Brayley was was dropped out of the Blues squad as well. Makes sense of that. Freddie Fittler's like, oh, well, I need another hooker. I'll just turn to the other one, which I didn't have in camp ahead of game one because I planned so far ahead. I've got this whole process thing under control. Anyway, the Sharks will take it. They get Nico Hines back. They get Blake Brayley back. They've even got Toby Rudolph on the extended bench, so he could come in. That'd be a welcome boost because they've really been missing Toby Rudolph up front. And their team is largely intact here. Britton Nakora, one of their best players, is a Kiwi, so he's not pulled out due to Origin. I think the Sharks can get back in business here.
Yeah, no, this was mine. I think this is where the Sharks go, what the hell was that last week? Nico Hines is like, yeah, cool, you've dropped me. I'm just going to go out and absolutely dominate this game. Yeah, one poor game, and then he doesn't get picked in Origin. I don't believe it's got anything to do with that. It just shows this New South Wales selections squad has no idea what they're doing. Nico Hines will dominate this game. The Sharks will cover this and cover well. They covered in the last two times that they've played, they've won by 13 and 16 in the last two games. This will be a smashing out at Shark Park on Sunday afternoon. And hopefully it makes everyone realise, oh yeah, Nico Hines, oh yeah, he's the Daily M medalist. We forgot that for about 6 days.
You're allowed to show emotion when your horse wins at Randwick.
Yep.
You're not allowed to show emotion and overreact if you are the coach of a professional rugby league team, let alone coach of a representative rugby league team, and make decisions off a minuscule sample size. But anyway, that's the world we live in, apparently, with Freddie Fittler.
Well, that's just saying, like, after 300 metres on, not Saturday at Randwick, but 300 metres after my horse's run at Wagga the start before when he won, my dad and I may or may not have said, this is against instructions. He's never riding the horse again. And then you know what? It won. He had a plan. He got it right. So you know what? We were wrong. He stayed on. And you know what? He won again. So maybe just go with what works and the team that you know, rather than going, hey, I'm going to change this, and this, and throw something up against the wall and hope it works. You've got literally the best player in the comp, not in your squad. Makes no sense, but I think we can yell about this on next Tuesday's Code Bet Daily, because we could dead set be here for at least an hour why Freddie Fittler is not a coach and should not be coaching New South Wales anymore, and why we will get smashed. Spoiler alert.
We'll leave it at mismanagement. Look, the Blues might win, but as I sort of said on my Twitter rant the other day, they're just stacking the odds against themselves. That's the bottom line. This could have been a 55-45 win probability. He's turned it into a 65-35. It's as simple as that.
In saying all of that, Cronulla will smash Canterbury and we will go out riding the weekend on a high. Right, I feel all 5 games prepared. What have you got for us as far as a best bet and maybe even an anytime try scorer for us this weekend? As we said before at the start of this show, I should say, looks quite a tricky weekend ahead of us.
Yeah, so apologies if you've heard my WhatsApp beeping off in the background. I'm in the midst of a US Open golf draft with 7 other mates. We're going 4 rounds.
Matt Fitzpatrick all the way, baby.
I love me some Fitzpatrick. Had him in the PGA Championship draft. He didn't succeed there, and he was sniped from me in this one. I've taken Patrick Cantlay in the mid-first round of this one. I've also got Morikawa, and then I've gone a super long shot, which I'm pretty excited about, I must admit, but I'm taking Wyndham Clark as a super long shot.
Jesus.
in the US Open. He's one of the biggest strikers on tour. They're playing at the LA Country Club. Some of these par 3s are like 300 yards and just insanely long, deep rough as well. It's going to take a big ball striker to win this event. So I'm liking Wyndham Clark. I refuse to draft any live players in spite of what's happened in recent weeks. But I think
despite Brooks being the best golfer in the world at the moment.
Despite that, I think Patrick Reed could be a long shot there as well. So that's where I'm leaning. But rugby league-wise, I've probably done the most research on this Thursday night game so far. I think both fullbacks are good shouts to score in this game. The Panthers are going to have to basically run all their offense through Dylan Edwards at fullback. He's one of the better support fullbacks as well in the competition. So whether it's through support game or him just, doing all he can to create inside that opposition red zone, he's a good shout. 290 at Ladbrokes, anytime try scorer. Scott Drinkwater on the flip side, you can get 325 anytime via Ladbrokes there, which is I think it's pretty firm. Again, he will have the benefit of his normal starting halves combination in Tom Dearden and Chad Townsend. So I think Scott Drinkwater can get on the score sheet. First try scorer, Semi Valame. How about him in his coming back into NRL before the bye? 3 tries against the Storm inside 44 minutes. He's $12 over at Better to score the opening try in this game Friday night. So loving the look of that. As mentioned, I think if you want to combine any of those guys for an anytime try scorer bet with the Cowboys head-to-head, you should be able to find some juicy value out there.
Yep.
What have you got?
Go. I love it. I'm just going to stick with Cronulla to cover that 12.5 start, and I'll back Parramatta. Throw maybe just Parramatta straight out into Cronulla to cover. That little multi will pop out probably to about $3.70. Just quick math off the top of my head. But yeah, not a weekend I'm keen on. My best bet of the weekend is actually Matt Fitzpatrick to be the top Englishman in the US Open at $3.40. So go to CodeBet, check out the article I wrote there. I may have also slipped the dagger into Rory and Jordan Spieth as well on the way through. But that is CodeBet
What have
Daily
they done?
NRL. No, nothing. That's the problem. They've done nothing. So that's why I'm trying to find value around those boys. I think it's Rory's $3.40 to miss the cut, or is it Spiethy? One of them. Go check out the article. It's a really nice article. I spent a couple of hours on it.
I'm sure it is. But Wyndham Clark is 67-1 over at Ladbrokes. Chuck a couple of sneaky dollars on that. And if you want to...
We've covered everything here this week.
we really have. And I'm trying to find it. If you want a super, super long shot, Sergio Garcia. He's going to come armed, 250-1.
No live players yet. I'm tipping a live player.
No, I won't draft a live player.
Okay. Big difference. Yeah. But yeah, before we get into official ramble mode, if we're not already there, that is CodeBet Daily NRL Round 16, not Code US Open Daily, done and dusted for this week. Phil will be on deck with us on Tuesday. I've just subbed him in for Tuesday for a State of Origin preview, so we can dig right into that. We can yell about New South Wales and, complain a bit more about how much we suck. But we'll also be back next week for round 17 of the NRL, and we'll be here full of bets, full of happiness. Hopefully my Swans have been somewhat competitive. The Roosters have had a crack, and maybe, we've had some success on the golf. But please subscribe and like on all of your podcast apps. This is on its own feed on Spotify. If you're on the daily feed, go to the NRL show on Spotify too. Apple Podcasts, we're just there everywhere. Check out all the shows we've got. Check out all of Phil's previews across at codebet.com.au. All up on the website. We've got all the AFL previews. Stats Guy's done something for the Ashes. I've done the US Open. I think James has started doing NBA awards and looking ahead to the draft. So a lot of stuff covered. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
And please, as always, gamble responsibly, punters, but may all your bets come in. Happy punting, and we'll catch you in a little bit. It's CodeBet Daily. Out.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.